Welcome back to Client School. I'm Eric Johnson, and I'm a lawyer with Utah Family Law, LC.
And I'm Brian Godfrey, a legal assistant with Utah Family Law, LC.
Now, you may be wondering why we are making this video in front of a map of the continental United States. We're not going to tell you. It will forever remain a mystery because we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about a subject that has come up in our practice for months and months. And it's kind of irritating, and we know it might be irritating for the people who call us as well. So it started with a phone call. Why don't you let us in on what happened, and then we'll talk about why it is we want to address this subject.
Okay. So a potential client called in, and he was trying to find out what our consultations were like, how much the pricing was. And I could tell he was kind of wanting to get me to say, oh yeah, our consultations are free. And when I explained that our consultation is $100 and you meet us for lunch for an hour, it's a discounted price, but we also buy you lunch out of that, his immediate response was, I'm not going to throw away $100 when somebody else can do it for $750.
Yeah, in other words, what he was saying is, hey, look, I don't want to waste my money on spending an hour getting to know you guys and finding out what you can do or not do for me, because there's another lawyer who for $750 can take the case sight unseen and just do everything I need.
Right, and it was a pretty difficult case. It wasn't like a slam dunk case that would be super easy and $750 would actually be.
It wasn't an uncontested case. It was going to be a petition to change custody from the ex-wife to the ex-husband.
Yes.
A contested case. $750? Now, let me explain why that's so crazy. Okay, the cost of the filing fee is $110 alone. So now you've gone from $750 to $650, okay? And then to do that right, to prepare the petition to modify, you have to understand the specific circumstances. You can't just dust off your Mad Libs pleading book and go, Mr. X wants to get the child of he and Mrs. Y to do this. I mean, you have to find out, like, well, what's the reason? Is it because the child spends more time with you? Is it because mom's got a drug addiction? Is it because mom's moved away? Is it because mom has an abusive husband or boyfriend? I mean, you've got to understand all that, and you can't just write down, well, I want to change custody and let's go hash that out in trial. Actually, that may not be a bad idea for changing the cost of litigation in Utah, but I digress. Okay, so this guy tells us, I'll just go to this other guy who won't waste his time with an initial consultation for which he has to pay. He'll just give $750 to some guy who will take the ball and run with it, and he'll just trust that it gets done. I mean, that, if you really believe that, first of all, why would you ever shop on price? Now, am I asking you to spend a ton of money?
No.
No, I get the best deal you can, but get the best value.
Right.
I mean, if all you're doing is trying to spend the least amount of money, I can tell you right now, I'll be more than happy to accept $500.
Right.
I won't do anything, but
won't do it right.
Yeah.
$500.
Yeah, but you can give me. You saved money.
Right.
That guy wanted $750. You saved $250. Just give me $500. I mean, I can't do a good job for $500, and you don't have to be a lawyer to know that. I mean, we all know that you have to pay a good price. You have to pay well to have the job done well. And I can tell you that a petition to modify child custody, including the filing fee for $750, I mean, the only way I could do that job well is to lose money on that sort of thing. So I won't take a case for $750 that's contested for child custody because I do this to make a living, and I do that without apology. So if you're just trying to save money, then I think you've lost sight of what it is you're trying to do. You didn't call the attorney to say, hi, I'd like to hire an attorney and I'd like to spend the least amount of money. You think that's what you're after, but what you're really saying is, hello, I can't do this myself. I need an attorney to help me. This could be a potentially difficult case. And I only have one shot. I only likely have one shot at this. So I don't have a lot of money. What's the least amount of money that I would need to spend to get this job done and accomplish the objective I have? And what's my objective? What was his objective?
To switch custody.
To switch custody from mom to dad. Now that's no small task. And anybody that would tell you I can do that for $750 is either lying to you or someone who is running a charity or is independently wealthy and doesn't need money. And so that $750 is used to, I don't know, cover the overhead or something like that. Okay? So think about that. We were just talking about, if you got, okay, well, I was talking about my father-in-law.
Story. Mm-hmm.
Father-in-law drew out a elk tag that's one in a lifetime tags. And he wasn't really much of an elk hunter, but he knew that this was a great tag, so he said, you know, I'm going to make the most of this. So what did he do? Did he say, well, I want to spend as little money as possible on this once in a lifetime hunt with this tag that's a once in a lifetime. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to prepare, I'm not going to scout out the good hunting grounds, because remember, this is a man that had never hunted for elk before. So like, I'm not going to scout out the hunting grounds, because that would be time that I have to spend, that I could be doing other things, and you know, I have to spend some money on gas, have to travel out there, and you know, he didn't have an elk gun, so it's like, well, you know, I'm not going to buy a gun that's big enough to take down an elk, and I'm certainly not going to buy the expensive ammunition that goes along with it. So I'm going to take my deer rifle, or let's even make it more ludicrous. I'm going to take my handy .22, and I've already got half a box of ammo in the garage.
Right.
So it is possible to take down an elk with the .22, right?
Sure, if you're a really, really good shot.
Yeah, if you're a crack shot and you happen to shoot the elk right in the heart or right in the head, you know, you can do that. But remember, if you actually get that chance, you want to leave as little to chance. You want to reduce your risk. So what do?
You research the area, you consult with people that are elk hunters.
And you get yourself a big old honking elk gun.
Because you got one shot.
Yeah, because you may have just one shot.
Yeah.
So when you've got one shot, like this guy had, with petition to modify child custody, I mean, get it wrong, mom's going to clean up her act, and you're not going to be able to do this again.
Right.
So shopping around on price, I'm sorry, lawyers simply cannot do good work for such a cheap price, unless. Well, no, actually, they cannot do good work for a cheap price. They can't. They can do some work, and it might be better than nothing, but is that all he wanted? I just want someone to do work that I can't do, but I don't care if they do it particularly well? No.
Right.
I mean, if you don't want to play to win, don't play at all.
Right.
And that's the point we're trying to make here. So regardless of who the attorney is that you're going to seek help from, you have to understand that you've got to pay well to get the job done well. And while there is a possibility that you might be the lucky person that finds that lawyer who just practices law for fun, or a brand new lawyer who graduated from law school and is just a genius but happens to charge very little because he or she's brand new. Right. That could happen, but the odds are against it. It is possible that I could bring down a 7-point elk with a 22, or maybe a slingshot or something like that. It can happen.
Sure.
But if I really want to bag that trophy elk, and I've got my once-in-a-lifetime tag, I've got this one chance, hey, it's not that much more for me to get the right equipment, and maybe I don't have to buy the gun. Maybe I can just borrow the gun. Maybe I can rent the gun. And I'm going to need to go and find out how to spot those elk. I'm going to need to know where they are, and I have a better chance, and I'm going to feel good about that. And even if I don't get an elk, I'll say, you know what, it just wasn't my day. But it wasn't for lack of trying. It wasn't for, oh gee, I actually had a good shot, but my lawyer was so lousy, he or she lost the case for me. That should be obvious. I mean, if you've got a car that you love, a car that you need, do you take it to the person who charges the least amount of money? No. And you've heard those silly stories about, oh, you wouldn't try to remove your own tonsils, but you really wouldn't try to remove your own tonsils. You could kill yourself. So even though you don't want to spend the money on it, you're in pain, it's going to keep coming back. You need to pay the price to have the job done right.
Right.
And that's the point we're trying to make. Thanks for coming to Client School.